Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Bobby. Last week I sent you an email with a video of Fred Couples swinging a golf club. Let's take a little peek at that clip. Freddie is smooth. You know, it's just unrealistic, it seems, for anybody to think that they're going to swing the golf club as elegantly and as smoothly and in a way that's as pleasing to the eyes as Fred Couples. I know there are some who are close. You know, Ernie Els is right there, but there's something about the effortless, the lack of tension in his shoulders and his arms that makes it very soothing to the senses to watch Freddie Couples swing a golf club. And I'll never forget the first time I saw him. It was in person in 1991. I was at the Masters in Augusta. And we had just passed Nick Faldo. We were watching him. My buddy said, "Hey, that's Nick Faldo. He's the reigning champ. In fact, he's won the last 2 years. He won in 89 and 90. This was 1991. And I saw Nick, and I was like, whoa, that guy is smooth. He goes, "You think he's smooth? Wait till you see Fred Couples." Well, we found Fred a few minutes later on number 10 tee box with his old persimmon driver. And he hit a drive, and I saw that swing and that perfect balance at the end. And it looked like he barely swung, and the ball took off like a rocket, and I just couldn't believe it. I was absolutely mesmerized by that. So I followed him around the rest of the day. I was like, this guy's the coolest guy in the world. And what I couldn't figure out is how he didn't win everything with that swing. And in fact, Freddie did win it the next year. He won the Masters in 1992. And I thought, boy, they're opening the floodgates now. He's going to win everything, because that was the third tournament of the year that Freddie had won by the time he won it at Augusta. But he just didn't like the spotlight. He said he didn't like to answer the phone, because every time he answered the phone, there was somebody on the other end calling him. That was his way of saying he didn't like attention, and he just wanted to be Freddie. And I think he won 12 or 15 times on tour, but nothing. He didn't have near the career that I think is commensurate with the level of his golf swing. I mean, that swing just was so great to watch. And in fact, some of you know this, but 2 weeks ago at the Masters, he shot under par, and that represents the greatest span, 42 years, from the first time he shot under par to the last time he shot under par at Augusta. And that tells you a little bit about him and how great that swing is. Now, why do I bring him up? Because there's something in that video that you can see easily that you can adopt for yourself, and that is that hip bump to the left prior to him clearing. This is an important move, because when you get your hips, this is why we bump first. When you get your left hip over your left shoe, that's like pouring an industrial lubricant all in this area, because now you can turn. Now you're free. Once you're on a single axis, you can turn. That's why we slide first, so that we can rotate more quickly. A person who tries to start rotating too early before having bumped finds that there's a traffic jam right here. When this hip is over this foot and this hip is over that foot, you're limited as how far you can turn. But as soon as you get left, now you're free. And so even though that may delay when you start rotating, in other words, I got to slide first, that's going to delay things, you more than make up for it, because now once you get there, you have total freedom. Well, how do you learn that? Well, I recommend you start with something short. I have a little sand wedge here. It looks like a 54-degree wedge. And I'm doing this because I need to remind myself not to swing hard. In the end, this is a power move. In the end, sliding and then clearing, bumping and then clearing, is going to really juice your golf swing. But if I do it with a driver, I'm going to be in such a hurry to try to capitalize on the promise that all this hip usage provides for me, then I'm going to blow up. My tempo is going to be too fast. So I'm going to learn it with a wedge. And how I'm going to do that, I'm just going to take this thing up, turn, and just feel like my hips bump, and then I swing. I'm not going to be encumbered by thoughts of power. I am just going to let some half wedges go out there, and then see if I can, in a discernible way, get my hips to slide before they start rotating. Once I start small, then I'll build and I'll build and I'll build. But the idea is to make sure that you don't feel anything rotating in the way of hip action until you feel your hip get over your left heel. And once you do that, you're going to start to notice a little zip, if you haven't been doing it. You know, just like anything else, if you're already strong in this area, then you're not going to tell a great deal of difference. But if you need some help, then learning to slide a little bit before that rotation will do wonders for you. One other thing, it's important to know that your head doesn't go with it. All right, your head, you're going to slide your hips, but the head stays back. Once you start moving your head along with it, well, you've undone all the good that comes from it. So the head may stay more or less where it is, but the hips slide, and there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next week.